Hello everyone, I'm Sachin Juneja and here is with me Mr. Raj Singhal. Welcome to the Marketing Soul and the next episode of hashtag Marketers Talk, where we interact with the top intellects of the industry. In this session, we have Mr. Raj Singhal, who is the CEO and co-founder at Footprints Childcare, a company disrupting preschool and daycare market with technology, having 120 plus centers in 18 cities with 20,000 delighted partners. An IIT Delhi graduate and a serial entrepreneur, Raj co-founded Brick Red Technologies and grew the company to over 300 people across four offices in India, UK, Europe, and US before a successful exit. I welcome Mr. Raj Singhal, sir, to this extremely exciting webinar that we're looking forward to, sir.
Thanks, Sachin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So to start with, it's been a COVID time. So how has been the COVID so far for you?
We are into sort of a brick and mortar business where there are actual physical centers and we're looking at small children. We were the first one that got impacted. In fact, even before the lockdown got announced, just as a precautionary measure, we sort of started locking down our centers. So for last 1 year, all our centers have been locked. We have gradually started reopening few of them only for daycare actually. But it's been pretty bad for us last 1 year.
I understand.
So we have what we have. I mean, of course, when you have situations like these, that's when you probably invent new possibilities. So we actually started doing some online activities and online preschool for small children. Never thought that 2.5-year-olds will be there on a screen and doing their preschool, but that has been very successful, honestly. I think that has helped us survive last 1 year. We got to about 2,000 parents who are taking online preschool classes, and that has been a very good experience, honestly.
That's right. That's right. So I'm sure it must be a tough task, managing 2.5-year kid over the online part.
Yeah, it is, and also to navigate through all the financial issues that are there. I mean, we had a team of 120 people, and then of course the team on the center. So it's been a very tough journey last 1 year, and the toughest part really is that just before COVID, we were at the peak of our game. We were adding roughly 10 centers every month, so we were right at the peak of our game, doing really well in last 5-6 months before COVID. So that hurts. I mean, we've been trying to build this company for 7 years. Finally, we were at a point where we were an inflection point in a way where we would actually grow at a pretty rapid pace. So yeah, I mean, but then life teaches you something. I mean, I've seen, this is my sort of third economic downturn that I'm seeing in my career. Well, first was in 2002, but then we had dot-com bubble, and then 2008, 2009, and then this one. And I've seen it both as an employee, as an employer, but this is like probably hurt us most, and probably made me learn most.
But I'm sure, the kind of disruption that has happened over a COVID, I'm sure with the kind of setup arrangement that you must have done, it will take you another, at the faster speed when you will be actually in the real gear mode of your growth, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. I think eventually, we are much leaner in terms of our cost structure, far more efficient, uh, and I think in general in life, I think at least I realize the value of everything that I've got much more than I ever did. So yeah, it has been an humbling experience, and I think business-wise also eventually I think things will be much better, but of course, in a shorter time, it's just too much of a pain. I don't hope that there is another wave of COVID here, and we have to go through that pain again, because
That's right.
ours is a business.
Yeah.
Because ours is a business that will get impacted again pretty soon. I mean, if we have a second wave, as it seems, then it'll be difficult for parents which are send the child. Though all the data says that there is no threat on child, but then as a parent, I understand people are anxious about their smaller ones.
That's right. That's right. So no, I mean, the question is again the related one. So I heard your previous story that you were into softwares. So softwares to education and that to preschooling. Now, what made you believe that you should enter into this?
So very honestly, I am a problem solver at heart. I am an entrepreneur at heart. I honestly don't care which business I, do. After doing Brickred, which is out and out, technology company, uh, I wanted to do something which is much larger in scale and which impacts much more lives. And I was very clear that who do I want to partner in this business, which is my closest friend Purvesh, and he was very clear that he wanted to do something in education. So we looked at the entire spectrum. Only preschool was the unregulated space. So we thought let's enter into preschool, and that was a pain that I could identify with because I had smaller children at that point of time, and I've gone through that struggle of preschool daycare. So I could identify that with that pain. So got into it honestly, and I'll be honest. I think initial couple of years were very challenging for me because even though I was running my last company in India, but it wasn't an Indian business really. I realized what it takes to actually become successful in India. It is far more difficult to actually make money in a business where you're serving Indian customers than serving US customers from India. You have to be conscious about every penny. And so yeah, I mean, in a way, you have to change your DNA. So it has been a difficult of initial few years, and I think I've asked number of times myself a question: is this what I really wanted to do? But then I guess I'm in a very happy space now. That I think I made a good decision because it allows me to impact several lives, and especially children who, when they are in their most crucial early years, where the brain development happens most. I think it is very satisfying, really.
Right. So because end of the day, we have to be satisfied with what we are doing, and I'm pretty sure you are enjoying this.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and I get to use a lot of technology and marketing. Those are the two strong areas I have, and we've been using a lot of technology in our operations. So yeah, I mean that way I get to use my strengths as well.
that's right. That's right. So, I mean, this is a no further to that. It's been actually a follow-up question. So, as you mentioned, you are in a serial entrepreneur. So, and the kind of a funding environment that I have seen from Paytm and Amazon and Flipkart and lots on. So, major, I think the emphasis that I've seen it's into GMV. The kind of GMV they will be having, and accordingly, the funding environment comes easy. So, but everything comes out to be on the dot, which is profits. So, what is your take into managing all this? What would be your preference? Creating having more GMV and then coming up to the profit model, or have to the sustainability profitable and then scaling up?
So I think depending upon what you are chasing and what kind of support you are getting, end of the day, uh, people who, I mean, let's say I'm into business because there is a mission that I have to solve a certain problem. At the same time, I do want to create a large amount of wealth, not only for me but for my shareholders, my employees. Now, in a modern era, the route to that is certainly probably one of the route at least is to actually raise large sum of money, and that happens when you're scaling fast. And when you're scaling fast, you can't keep up with the profits. You'll have to give up profits and possibly offer your product services at a little discounted rate, and possibly spend a lot more in marketing and technology, and eventually, and a lot of companies have proven that eventually you can turn the wheel and you can actually be profitable. So I don't see any problem with that path, and I don't see any problem with the traditional path which our parent took, wherein they were more focused on profit. So it all depends on what your goals are. I think in my last company I was very clear that and the funding environment was also not that right when I started my last company. So I was very clear that we want to make it a profit-oriented company, and we were profitable for all of 9 years of operation before I sold that out. At Footprints, we've been very conscious about scaling, so we've not really thought about being profitable. We've always been thinking to scale, 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 and depending on how much money we were able to raise, sort of scaled to that degree. So I don't see any problem with any of the approach, as long as we are clear what you are chasing and if you're getting the support. I mean, you can't, if you're not enough funded and then you are trying to sort of fund from your own saved money, that's not a good thing to do.
I see. That's right. That's right. That's right. So, so apart from the academic pedagogy, which I'm sure at the preschooling level you mentioned about the technology. So, if you can share some snippets about it, how you are bringing that change, and then probably I'll take up the next question.
Sure. So, I mean, if you look at the parent side, one of the biggest issue in a preschool environment has been preschool daycare environment is how do I trust my preschool? You go to 10 preschools or daycare, almost everybody has to say that they've got a great pedagogy, great teachers, and all of that. How do you really know whether what they're saying is actually what they're delivering? So the first thing we did was actually install high quality CCTV cameras and give access to parents. So actually parents can now see everything live. So if I'm saying that there would be a dance activity on a 11 a.m. Wednesday, they can actually see whether that is happening or not. If I'm saying this is a particular adult child ratio that I maintain, they can actually see whether I'm maintaining that or not. So that is the first very basic technology that we employed. And then parents came back saying that, yeah, we can trust you, but we still are anxious about a lot of things since, our child is small, that has he eaten, has he slept, all of that. So then we started providing them live updates of, critical activities in a day for a child. So for example, they'll get an update like Amit has eaten half katori of dalia, Amit has slept. So they'll get about 5 updates every day, which are sort of 15 minutes delayed. So even if they're not watching CCTV feed, they could still get to know important things that they are sort of concerned about. Then the requests started coming in that, we want to we want to shift the center, we want to pause the center. Typically in a school environment, every time you have to do something, you have to go to school, give them a sort of something in writing, and then they'll process it. We actually brought everything online. So parents have an app on which they can, pretty much like an Amazon, you could actually go to the customer support on the app and do all of the items that you want to do. So for example, you want to shift the center, you could just click a button and shift your center. If you want to pause the service for some time, you could do that. If you want to opt for a full day service instead of a half day service, you could just go on the app and do that. Everything is integrated with the financial system, your invoice, everything will get adjusted.
Right, right, perfect. That's why I mean that's too in the deep nitty gritty to ensure that parents are properly satisfied. I'm sure. Right, right.
Yeah, so
So
they can see the menu, they can see what are the activities we are doing, they can even all the photos, videos are shared on the app. So yeah, a typical parent spends about 40 minutes on our app every day. So they actually spend a lot of time on that. That's on the parent side. On the franchisee side, one of the typical issues are there is no data available. I mean, at the center level, really. So at the center level, the center manager has all the dashboard in terms of how many visits happened, how many of them converted, why did they not convert, or all the report of the children that are there at the center, how is their weight, and everything is weight, height, everything is progressing, and if there are issues, system alerts them that this hasn't happened. If there's a teacher which is absent for more than certain number of days, there's an alert. Child is absent for a certain number of days, there's a lot of alert built in the system. All the trainings, etc., are online, and there's a proper sort of LMS there. So, I mean, as much as we could automate, except actually delivering to child, I think we have used technology to do that.
right, right. So what has been your marketing philosophy been so far as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have any degree in marketing, honestly. I mean, I'm an engineer at heart, and
You are a
but I'm
serial entrepreneur. That's the best degree that you have.
yeah, right. So, I mean, I don't understand traditional marketing really. I mean, I can tell you what I've done in marketing. I think even at my last company, Brickhead, which is B2B, we relied primarily on online marketing, and I'm talking about back in 2005, 2006, when online marketing wasn't even a keyword, I guess. And when I started doing that, things like SEO or Google Ads, at that point of time, people were saying that you're mad. Do you actually believe somebody in US will actually type, "I'm looking for this service," and they'll come to your website and actually give you the business? I said, I'll prove you whether that happens or not. And we actually, most of our customer came through that channel. So I think marketing has changed quite quite fast. I think traditional marketing, at least as I understand the BTL, ATLs of those are those days are gone. Really, I think it's more digital marketing. So at least we personally rely a lot on, and in fact, almost everything, all our money goes to digital marketing, some on performance, some on brand awareness. But that's what I think future holds. I think I don't see, at least for smaller and mid-sized companies, I don't see they would be going for traditional marketing like ATL, BTL, etc.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Recently, national education policy has also been revised, and then a new format structure has come up. Is that impacted preschool also, or not?
Not much. There isn't much about preschool really. I think there are some guidelines. I don't remember those, but yeah, it doesn't talk about preschool that
Preschool.
much.
So let's suppose you are given a chance to do something revolutionary for the nation, and of course, through footprint, it's going amazing. But on a larger scale, what would be your advice? What would you suggest? One thing you would like to have a big change for Indian
Uh,
education system.
yeah, in education system, I think one of the hypocrisy that we all live in is that education should not be for profit. I think we all know, even though our law says that universities and colleges and schools cannot be for profit, we all know that people are creative in India and they are actually running it for profit, right?
Right.
So I think that hypocrisy needs to be uh, sort of taken away, and I think we need to be. I think education is one of the most important subject other than health, and I think we need to allow private investment. And then my belief is that if India allows foreign investment in a higher degree, I mean at the university college level, even at the K-12 level, I think a lot of investment would flow in, and we will end up becoming the education hub for entire Southeast Asia and Middle, Central Asia, really. And I think a lot of the people who from these areas, I mean, India, China, Thailand, etc., who go to US or UK for higher education at a much higher cost, they would probably come to India, and we'll end up creating the intellectual muscle for this entire region, really. And that actually helps everybody. I mean, it helps government generate lot of FDI, helps our economy, and actually in the end, actually we're creating large enough intellectual pool. I mean, I would bet that some of the top universities like Harvard, Stanford would want to set up their campuses in India if it is allowed, and that would actually be beneficial for everybody. So that is one thing I would suggest. In fact, I gave those comment. Few people approached me during the NEP, and I gave that comment also to them also, that I think we should open. But I understand it is a political subject. It may not be easy for any government to
That's
uh, do it. But yeah, hopefully some government has the courage to do it finally.
right. So, since you are from IIT, and IITs, IIMs known for creating entrepreneurs. So, what would be your advice to the young minds, shifting up their stata quo of getting into the corporate jobs rather than trying up for an entrepreneur journey? How, because one thing that is the dreaming. They are good at that, but
Sure.
the part is the implementation, and then they stuck at the, when I spoke to some of the students, they said funding kahan hai. So how would you like to break this myth and take it forward?
Yeah, so very honestly, I think there's a lot of funding available, especially for young entrepreneurs. And I also think they're not only good at ideation and thinking about a new idea, I think they're very good at implementation as well. I think they've In fact, our generation needs to learn from the younger generation. So I don't think there's anything for me to really contribute to younger generation. I think there's a lot to learn from younger generation. I think one area where I think younger generation needs to probably understand a little more is that, the entrepreneurship or business is just not about making wealth. It's also about creating an environment where people are flourishing. People around them are flourishing. What I hear, the horror stories that I hear at lot of companies is that even though they, in terms of valuation, they've been able to create valuation, but the atmosphere within the company is very toxic. End of the day, you may be able to create a lot of wealth, but end of the day, all of us are chasing happiness and satisfaction, and that we only get when there is a nurturing environment around us. So I think that's one area that I think young entrepreneurs need to be careful about. Instead of just purely chasing money and wealth, I think they need to be careful about what really matters in the life. I am not against money, and I think all of us should earn a lot of money, make a lot of money. But end of the day, we have to treat people as humans, because everybody has the right to has certain rights, and we need to be sort of conscious about it. I don't think younger generation appreciates that much.
So basically, you were saying entrepreneurship is it's a satisfaction.
Yeah,
That they
right.
should
I mean,
pursue.
end of the day, money is good, but what would you do with money? I mean, yeah, I mean, you need to do something which actually finally gives you satisfaction. Once you're done, all of us will die one day. Once you're done, nobody's gonna sort of talk about you after 100 years, unless you're a Steve Jobs or you've created that kind of a legacy. That's probably different, and that will happen probably one out of a billion person. But other than that, nobody's gonna talk to you. So it's all about the satisfaction and the inner satisfaction and happiness that you get when you're running a company. So you need to be careful about the environment that you live in and you create for others.
That's right. That's right. Coming to the last leg of this conversation, what would you like to say about the marketing soul, this community that we are creating?
No, it's a wonderful idea. I think there is a need for having some sort of a network where marketers can exchange ideas, because of technology, marketing is changing very fast. So there is a need for marketers to collaborate. I think there are companies who have scaled, and there are companies who are trying to scale. So if they can collaborate, I think as in India, we can actually flourish faster. A lot of young entrepreneurs could actually get benefit because of this. So I think it's a good thing.
That's right. That's right. So last question to you. 0 to 5 year, the corporate guys struggles a lot. So what is your advice to them?
So I have not been in corporate life. I mean, I did what 1 year of job with TCS, and after that, 2 years at a startup where I did not feel that I'm in a corporate job. So I haven't really
Must
experienced
have
that.
interviewed many such people, I'm sure.
Yeah. So your question is that what is my advice to those 0 to 5 years?
To those, because I feel the settling period or that just of learning more is probably no, sometimes they only run after the money, they don't want to learn more. That is what per se I say. What is your advice?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, in fact, my bias is that uh, even if you want to start out eventually, I think it's important for you to, work 3 4 years in an organization and learn the tricks of the trade, because it's very difficult otherwise. Because I see a lot of young people, just out of the college, starting their own venture, and I'm sure they're doing well. But I have a bias that I think if you have worked in a good startup or a large corporate, that actually helps you learn a lot, and that's how you would be able to actually grow your own organization. In a way, you're learning at the cost of somebody else. I think it's sort of a must for me.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So community, please listen. He is really recommending you to first have an experience, then land up into something to get a great exposure and further success.
Yeah,
Great.
look at a startup that you're excited about. Join that, understand that, and join a startup which is still early in the game, which is still, let's say, 15, 20, 30 people startup. That's where you learn a lot. I worked at a startup called IndusLogic back in 2001. I was there, initial few employees, in fact, probably the first employee there. And that company eventually became one of the unicorns in India. But the learning I had there in the first 2 years of my career was immense. I mean, I think I learned in those 2 years what I probably would have learned in any other job at 5, 6 years. So I would advise that you should join a startup, learn, and then probably start your own.
Perfect, perfect. So Raj sir, thank you so much for having this interaction. So we are on our finest last leg. So it's a fire round. So we'll be throwing a questions to you, and you have to quickly answer it in one word.
Sure.
Yeah. So first is who is Raj?
I am an entrepreneur and a problem solver.
Okay. One thing he is desperate to do post-COVID.
To actually turn Footprints profitable, which I never focused on for last 7 years.
He loves most?
Spending time with my children and my friends.
Okay. Your company?
Did not get the question.
Your company means?
As in, for what Footprints means to me?
Yes.
It's one of the things that I do.
Oh, that's an interesting part for me to have another conversation with you, sir. So the last one person, if you give an opportunity to travel with, your choice.
I'll pick one of my friend. I think I'm not gonna name. It'll create a controversy. So I'll pick one of my friends.
Okay. Great. Right. Thank you so much, Rajiv. And it was an amazing interaction. And I'm sure when the community members will be seeing this video, it will be in a much learning for them, especially your recommendation about the startups learning and all that.